It is Tuesday, August 19th, 2025. It's about 8 o'clock in the evening, and I set up a new row this morning from about 1640 to 1540 feet, so 100 feet wide. And the reason why I'm making it a wider row is because the forage is not great. We're getting to the part of the pasture that doesn't have a lot of good grass to eat, and I didn't want to put a lot of pressure on the plants, so I just gave them more space. And there's some good forage on the other side. I'm not going to go there, but there's some good forage over there. It's just over here, it's kind of dry, and I never really got good growth in the spring or the summer. So, but anyway, we've been having lambs. I saw at least 2 or 3 more. I did see a sheep with prolapse, so you might see a sheep with prolapse. I'm going to just inspect the sheep as best as I can. Prognosis is not good for prolapse, so I'm not going to mess with it. There's one of the lambs over there. I think that one was born a couple days ago. Looks like a sheep decided she'd rather be out on her own. Come on. Come on. Yeah, that's the one with prolapse over there. I'm not gonna focus on it. If I could catch her, I would. I can't. But yeah, that's probably not fun. I don't really have a good way of catching the animals out in the field. And as I've said before, I don't want to really bother the animals and get them all excited. Trying to just catch a few. Even getting the ram off. One of the rams wandered down, decided he'd rather be with the ewes. Even getting him off, I had to run the flock back and forth several times. And you know, with the young lambs, it's just not good to run the flock back and forth like that. I think that's one of the newer ones there. Yeah. Mom was all concerned because I'm looking at her. So, let's see what I want to talk about models. You know, you have model airplanes and stuff like that. That's not the kind of model I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is mathematical models. So what models are they are a way to describe what we think is going on in nature. And we use math equations and stuff to describe how things behave, and then we use that to determine you know, what might happen, or maybe even what did happen in the past. So models are a fairly useful tool. When you get the model right, the data matches the model really, really well. But there's some problems, like there's certain models that, like if you have 20 data points, you can use a polynomial of degree 20, and you can match those data points exactly. Hit every single one of them. The problem is that model's not very useful. And because you want models that kind of tell you what's happening in between and around and at the ends of the data, right? So in physics, we've always worked backwards compared to the way people work nowadays. And we did that for a very good reason, so that we don't get the nonsense we get today with what's called AI/ML. Artificial intelligence, which is a misnomer. It's not artificial, is not intelligence. And then machine learning, which is another misnomer because it's not actually learning. But also the climate models that people use for predicting global warming and things like that are another model that people use. And if you read the articles closely, you'll note that typically when they're talking about the future, they're talking about what the models predict. And oftentimes when they talk about the past, they talk about what the models predict happened in the past. I'm concerned about this ewe. That looks like mastitis to me, but I'm not very experienced. The reason why I say it does is because it's bigger and it's red. So now I did see that lamb nurse on that mama when she was born. This is the one that I filmed early on, like moments after that lamb dropped. So, but the fact that it's red is kind of a warning sign to me. And again, I can't really do much because I don't have a good way to catch the sheep. I don't want to get them all excited. Look at this belly bulging out like that. Are there twins inside for you? Are you getting close to giving birth there? Is that number 11? That is. Oops. Yeah, you don't like being touched. You are full. Look at that, you are full. I think this is Yummy. Is that you, Yummy? You need to shed your coat. But I think she's getting close to birth too. I'm going to try to pull your coat if you let me. No, you won't. Okay, that's fine. I'm not going to get you excited. Anyway, models are great when they actually match, what's going on in nature, which is why calculus is so good, because it models how things move in nature so well, and we get a lot of predictive power out of it. We get Newton's 3 laws and all things like that from calculus. I'm going to try to get that sheet back while I talk about models. But one of the problems is if you start with the data and then you look for a model, you'll find it. The issue is, however, the dogs are trying to make me trip. They're being pretty naughty right now. I'm just ignoring them. But the issue is if you search for a model that matches the data, you're going to find it. The problem is that model is not going to help you understand the data one whit, right? And oftentimes it'll just give you bad ideas. Hey, you need to get back. Nope, nope, nope. Okay, I'll accept that. Normally I don't like dogs that chase sheep, but in this case you're actually doing something good. So I'm going to give you a rub and say good dog, because you did something good. Get off. Don't jump on me like that. Okay. And that's what's happening a lot of times is people they're finding models that just fit the data, that have no predictive power, and the climate models too. The issue with the climate models is that the equations that govern how temperature, pressure, and all that kind of stuff works is chaotic, right? And I think I've talked about chaos before in some of my videos, but for those of you that don't remember, chaos is a mathematical concept which says that even the tiniest change in the initial conditions can give wildly dramatic different results, right? And so that's where you get like a butterfly can flap its wings in Africa and cause a hurricane to hit New York, right? Because that's what the equations describe, is that sort of behavior, that sort of unpredictability. So that's basically what I wanted to say, is listen closely when people are talking. If they use the word model to describe what they're talking about, most likely what they're talking about is absolute garbage, and you don't have to listen to it. I'm of the mindset that this artificial intelligence, this generative, whatever you want to call it, Gen AIs, I think is the new code word you put on your resume to earn lots of money. It's nonsense. It doesn't do anything. None of these predictive models have actual intelligence behind them. And the more people try to quote unquote understand what's going on, the more they realize it's just complete bunk. So the worst part is people are using these AIs thinking that they can be trusted, and they can't. You can't trust anything that comes out of these things. You can't even trust that they're going to get you on the right path if you're trying to research a topic. But because they've invested so much money in these models and developing the software around it, they're trying to get a return on their investment. They sunk billions and billions of dollars. Now, Apple did the right move. They stopped investing in at least the models that were, going to be used to drive cars. They realized that that's a fool's errand. You can't do that. But the other companies are still sinking billions and billions of dollars. They're hiring people to work on stuff, and the people are lying to them. And then once they realize they've been lied to, how do you get that money back? You can't, right? So that's why I don't want to be any part of it, because I don't like lying to people. I think if we don't have honesty and if we don't have trust, we don't have an economy, right? And I'll be honest with you, that's one of the problems I have with immigrant labor. They don't share the same values with us, and there's no incentive for them to build up the trust and the honesty in our economy, right? They're not long-term invested in the economy. They never will be. Whereas me, I'm trying to build something for my grandkids and great-grandkids that haven't even been born yet. something that I'd be proud to leave behind for him, you know, a legacy and things like that. My great-great-grandfather, let's see if that's right. Yes, my great-great-great-grandfather, his lifelong wish was that his kids would grow up to be honest. He really didn't care about anything else. Just be honest, right? And so that's something I try to do is to be honest about everything. I'll tell you the truth, even when you don't want to hear it. You know, if you want me to lie to you, I can't do that. So that's what got me through my career up to this point. You know, you don't try to hide things, and you don't try to blame others for something that you caused, and you try to get to the root cause of things and try to understand actually what's going on there. This is Lady. She's one of the original St. Croix that I bought. Looks like she's getting ready. I can see her teats are kind of poking out. She's done pretty good. She's given me a lamb pretty much every time I was supposed to get a lamb. I don't think she gives me doubles very often though. So, but she is purebred and registered St. Croix. Anyway, models. You guys have a great day. Take care. Bye-bye.